Hey everyone, and welcome back to Knit Chocolate Pearls. Today's video will be a review of the Hobbii Friends wool in Aran weight. This is 100% wool, it comes in 50-gram balls and there's 100 metres or 109 yards per ball. I'm just going to start off by saying that this yarn, I have washed it and it absolutely stinks. I know that wool tends to have a bit of a smell to it when it's wet, but this yarn was something else. Like, my husband doesn't have much of a sense of smell and he was shocked by the smell of this yarn. I couldn't believe it either. The smell, and it was inground in all of my hands. Everywhere I turned in my house I could smell it. Even after I put it in the garden, the smell lingered. There's stinking, and then there's this. It's on a whole other level. Anyway, I'll get into that in more detail when I show you the projects in a moment. I thought I'd start by showing you the knitted project first. Now this is the one I actually washed, the one that stank, and honestly, it still stinks a little bit. I washed this about 3 weeks ago, it aired outside for nearly 2 days, but yeah, the smell's still there. Something I will also say about this yarn is if you are very sensitive to wool, you might not want this yarn because this one is very itchy. I'm not that sensitive to wool and this one bothers me. It's really, I don't know if you can see, my neck is all coming up red. I can't stop scratching it, and I've only had this on for about 2 minutes, literally just to switch the phone on. It has like a strong prickling scratchy sensation. I think it has quite long fibres because if you look closely there's quite a lot of loose ones. This is a bit rumpled because it's been folded upstairs. I'm not sure if you can see them on camera. I'll do another close-up, but yeah, there's a lot of long loose fibres on it, and I think that's contributing to the itching because you can feel them, they are quite stiff. This will bother someone with sensitivity, so I would be very cautious if I was going to gift a knit and they said yes I want wool. I would be very cautious of using this one for that particular reason. Another issue is it is a hand wash wool, 30 degrees max. That's exactly what I did. I probably washed it a bit lower than that and a lot of colour bled out of it. Now I have the ball here. Now that's it. It's hard to tell on camera the difference. It's a subtle difference, but it's definitely there. I was quite surprised by how much dye came out of this yarn when I washed it. And like I said, I didn't wash it over the maximum at all. So that's something else to be aware of. Definitely don't put it in the washing machine. And I would say it works up better knitted than it does crocheted. Now if you have a look here, it definitely stretches out. I didn't block this, I just lay it flat to dry. It definitely stretches out and takes on a slightly not necessarily stiff, but not necessarily crusty type of texture. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to show you my other project and I'm going to show you some of the other balls and the colours, because overall I would say I do like this yarn, but I don't love it. Is this one I would buy again? No. I am making my temperature scarf this year with it, so I'll show you that again. I've updated it in some of my previous videos, but yeah, I just want you to get a better feel of this yarn because honestly, it's nice, but there are plenty of issues here. I don't think I've caught up with this project since I last showed it to you last week. Now this is my temperature scarf for the year. I've crocheted this. My first impression with crocheting this yarn is felt. Now I really fear that this yarn is going to felt up as I work with it. Let's see if we can get it on camera. If this picture isn't good enough, I'll take another video for you. But yeah, it has almost like a very dense, almost pre-felted texture. You can see it isn't. You can definitely see the definition in the stitches. You can definitely see they're all separate. But this is one I'd be very cautious of washing, and I would definitely wash crocheted very cold just to prevent that. Be very careful. Don't be afraid to block it. I haven't done that yet. I've washed the knitted version and I can see with knitting it's fine. It definitely changes the shape and the texture a bit, but with the crochet it feels very dense and it feels like the fuzz is binding up a lot. This is an incredibly fluffy yarn. It's actually about as fluffy as a lot of acrylics, and you don't always get that with wool. I've noticed with a lot of woolen brands I use, they don't tend to have as much fuzz on them. But yeah, that's something to be mindful of. These are lovely colours though. It does make a decent temperature scarf because this year I wanted one that was in slightly more neutral colours rather than the almost circusy colours I've used for the last few years. So off the top of my head we have sage green, misty green, cappuccino, mulberry, chocolate, cognac, buckthorn. Now I do have pumpkin as well, which is right here. It's quite a bright orange. It's perhaps not necessarily the best colour to blend in with it. This one though, you can see it here, it does have fuzzy debris, I'll probably insert some more clips of it. A lot of fuzz and a lot of shedding. I'm not pulling it tightly at all. But yeah, that's something else to be mindful of. Again, it feels scratchy. I would put this against my skin. With the crochet, it's perhaps slightly less scratchy, less itchy. Let's not make a Simpsons reference, but it's less itchy and more scratchy. But yeah, if you are worried about it, I would consider crocheting it more, because rubbing this on my skin, wrapping it around, isn't as bothersome as when it's knitted. I'm not sure why, it's probably just the structure of the stitches. But like I said, with the felting issue, it brings it in, it condenses the stitches more. So I think that's perhaps flattening some of those longer strands to prevent them from scoring at the skin. Another thing I'll say about this yarn is the colour range is pretty fantastic. If you go on the website and have a look through, there's quite an extensive colour range. Just looking at this scarf alone, there's a few colours, not too many though, but they all go together nicely. Like the misty green and the sage are quite complementary. The mulberry pink goes beautifully with any of the chocolate browns. The cognac, even this buckthorn yellow that stands out quite strongly from the rest, that goes together well in this palette. Overall, it's slightly warmer leaning than cool, but they do have a good range of cooler tones, of deeper tones, of more muted tones, of much warmer tones. I really like that. I'm a warm tone person, love them all. But that's a very good thing to consider if you want colour work, because sometimes with a lot of yarns, you'll look through the selection and they either don't go together well, or the selection isn't extensive enough to build the project you want. I've had that trouble no end of time, so I understand how frustrating it is. There's bits of this yarn sticking to my skin and it bothers me. My favourite colours together are honestly the cappuccino brown, the mulberry pink and the chocolate brown. They look lovely to me. This reminds me of those. Have you ever had the Roses chocolates with the strawberry in the middle and then the dark chocolate outside? Lovely, absolutely love it. I will say though, there is colour fading when you wash it. It's not extreme, but it definitely is there, and that's something to be mindful of. And I would also be careful washing the colours together. Do wash them cool to ensure there's no bleeding. I had a lot of bleed with that previous project I just showed you, and sometimes if the yarn is porous, it can pick up other colours there. So do be mindful if you're, for example, making a project in black and white, that the black doesn't bleed into the white and you end up with grey. Do be cautious to use cool water with that. So now it's time for a demonstration. Now this recommends using a 5mm hook, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do the same as usual, a couple of rows of single, half double and double, then we're going to pull it back. I'm sorry if you can hear my rabbit banging about, but yeah. This feels quite comfortable to work with. I'm not having to use any tension, I'm holding it very gently. If you have stiff wrists or uncomfortable hands, or you find that having to use extra tension on a project is very uncomfortable, this is a good option for you. It's very soft, but it's also a sturdy yarn. Some wool can feel very fragile. This does not feel that way at all. This feels quite thick and comfortable. It's not really the thickest Aran I've ever used, but it's also not really verging on a worsted weight either. I would say it's a pretty good size. I'd say if you were looking for a yarn to substitute in a project that needs Aran weight, but you're concerned that it's not going to be right, this would be a safe bet to pick, because sometimes we can pick yarns and they're way thinner than what the project recommends. Very comfortable to work with. It slides through its own loops very comfortably. It sits on the hook nicely. I would say this is a good 8 to 10 out of 10 in terms of comfortability using it. I don't have any issues with my hands, so I can't speak on behalf of people who do, but this isn't in any way taxing. I know cotton yarn is very taxing on the hands and wrists. This is gentle, this is more comfortable to use than acrylic. And look, there's no strange textures. It's very silky, soft and smooth. Lovely and comfortable. Let's pull it back and see what it's like. Comfortable and easy. Yeah. Lovely. No damage, no snapping, no snagging. I can imagine if you pulled it back a few times though, some of these longer hairs could become bound up, you see there. That's where the risk comes when you get loops like this, and it looks like some of the other yarn colours have become tangled around it. Often happens when you have projects with a lot of loose fibres like this, look. Loose, long strands. That's also what causes the itching and irritation. Let me see if we can get it to focus on this. It's very fuzzy yarn, but not in a negative way. It's pleasantly fuzzy. This is nice quality yarn. If you're looking for something to make any comfortable garment with, I would recommend this. I would not recommend it for anything you are going to be sitting on or brushing up against. Because of those fibres, there is a risk of felting. Now, I'm going to get the needles and we'll just do a demonstration for the knitting. I'm back with those 5.5mm with the paint stains on them again. Actually, let's use a different colour. Let's go for this chocolate brown. Just to get a good picture of what the colours look like when they're worked up. I have knitted with this before. It's pleasant to knit with, quite comfortable. If you want, you can watch me knitting that whole video. I don't think I did any talking in it, it was just a subtitle video, so if you want something kind of comfy and lazy to knit along to, crochet along to, there's that option. It's on my channel. Comfortable. I like this when it casted on. A few of the ones that I've cast on in these demonstrations have been very splitsy and annoying. No uncomfortable noise, no snagging. Oh, this is lovely. I'm a big fan of wool. I've always said that I much prefer wool to acrylic. But I'm not trying to be biased or anything here. It's lovely and soft to knit with as well. It feels very light, very comfy to work with. Not really any unpleasant noises. Like in the paint box video, I know I'm comparing acrylic to wool here, but this one doesn't make any uncomfortable squeaky or scratchy noises when knitting. Some of them do, not just acrylic. It's very comfortable to work with, I will say that. Comfortable yarn to work with, not as comfortable to wear. It would actually make quite a good blanket though, especially knitted. Comfy, nice, really soft. Look, there's not too much definition. That's a sign of a good quality yarn when the stitching, the winding doesn't have really thick, obvious definition. Obviously all yarn has it to a degree, but this is comfortable. This looks pleasant. Let's just purl this row so we can get a good view of it. There we go, that's what stuck in it would be like. I mean, it's lovely, the colour is lovely and rich, lovely and warm. I would strongly recommend this. Overall, I would recommend this yarn. I would rate it probably, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I won't give it any higher simply because it is very scratchy and very itchy. The colours do bleed when you wash it and you have to hand wash it. If that's something that bothers you, perhaps consider something else, because for me, that can be very difficult in winter. I live in northern England, so we don't have that much good weather at the moment. It's very hot, but it's hard, incredibly hard to dry this yarn, even in warm weather. I washed it a few weeks ago. It took nearly 4 days to dry that hooded scarf thing I was wearing in the previous clip. So do be mindful of that, that if you can't get wool dry, this is something to consider. It is very absorbent of the water and it does smell absolutely awful. Right now, just using it in a bowl, it doesn't smell. There's no smell. There's just a slight dye smell on it, but that's what most yarn has. As soon as it's wet, the smell, horrendous. So yeah, definitely one to consider. I really like this yarn. I would only buy it on sale. I wouldn't pay full price for it. But other than that, nice yarn. Perhaps not for gifting unless you know the person's okay with this particular yarn, because like I said, very itchy, very irritating. Other than that, very good for projects, very beautiful colour range, very comfortable to work with both knitting and crochet, pulls back nicely. Let's just do it with the knitting. But you can see loose, comfy, and I've gone up half a needle size here with a 5.5. It looks lovely, it's very comfy, no damage, no problems, nice and soft. Yeah. So if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.